So this is Steve, he, him, from Florida. Steve is saying, creeping religious fascism and atheists fighting to prevent a theocracy. So I'm curious what this will be about.
Yes. All right.
What is up, Steve?
Steve, you're live on Talk Heathen. What's going on?
Well, first of all, I must tell you that your show and all of the ACA and ACA adjacent shows are among the most intelligent, well-run, interesting, sometimes comically fascinating, and helpful of any talk show content available. And I am in the media, so this is an objective evaluation.
Oh.
And you can be very proud for what you have achieved.
Thank you, Steve from Florida. We have an objective evaluation from Steve from Florida who works in the media. So that's I'm going to put that on my resume. That's
Steve from Florida.
Yeah, Steve. Hey, you think I'm doing a bad job? Call up Steve from Florida, okay? he knows what I'm about, all right?
I also feel like that's such a nice compliment to like all of the different people who work on the shows and all of the different hosts. So that's really lovely. Thank you.
Yes, when we thank the crew at the end of the show, we do mean it. There's a lot of people that help put this stuff together. So thank you so much for that compliment. But tell us more about this topic that you want to talk about.
Well, one thing about how great your crew and team is that your call screener was exceptionally professional and advised me prudently not to be explicit in my concerns about religious fascism and cross the line into political partisanship, which could endanger your nonprofit
That's
status.
right.
We are a nonprofit.
Very prudent call screeners we have. Yes.
All right, Yoda.
Yes. But here, living here in Florida, you can see the collusion between, some people with political power and the religious industry. And really, that's the first foundation of it. Religion in the United States is a industry that has tax-exempt nonprofit status, but is absolutely a retail industry selling versions of salvation and personal guidance with huge profits and no oversight whatsoever. Number two, these businesses, which I remember that saying that religion is the opiate of the masses, these spiritual fentanyl dealers, not only do they not have to pay taxes or have any scrutiny on all the money they rake in from the faithful and the deluded, they also are allowed to be political from the pulpit, even though it's a violation of various laws which are never enforced, including IRS provisions.
Yeah.
The same laws that make us so we shouldn't be saying any of that should apply to them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. You guys are cautiously worried about me saying something that could get you in trouble. But from the pulpits of mega churches with 30,000 people in attendance, people are being told things such as, women should really be property of men and the state, Handmaid's Tale, hate anyone who is not like you, especially if they don't fall in love and make love the way you do. If people are not religious, they should be shut down. They should be excised by Supreme Court rulings. And it's being installed in law, especially in so-called public education, which here in Florida, tens of millions of taxpayer dollars are being handed with no strings attached and no oversight to so-called religious private charter schools that are all about indoctrination, and that's called taxpayer-funded education. It is scary.
Yeah.
I feel like I would have a lot of, and I'm sensing this from you too, being here in Texas, like sometimes get very angry because it feels like this overwhelming force. You're right, religion can be this industry, and so it feels so frustrating sometimes and so overwhelming to feel like you're advocating for free thought, for independence, and then you see, like, I know PragerU is now allowed in Florida public schools as an instructional material. When you see something like that, it feels like we're going backwards as a culture. It's rough.
Texas and Florida.
I got to say to you,
go ahead, Steve.
Can I just say, as a woman in Texas, I got to say to you that Gilead from The Handmaid's Tale, I mean, what the Texas power elite have said to you as a female is that the state owns you, and also your neighbors who oppose your reproductive rights own you too, and a man owns you if he. I mean, look, but that isn't. I mean, the same thing has happened here in Florida.
Yeah,
it's atrocious. Now, the main reason I called today is I just heard we have a congressional representative named Anna Paulina Luna. Now, that she is a very clever lady, and she and some of her allies are pushing this idea that the Constitution doesn't say there is freedom of religion.
Yes.
Nor does it, but it says that you don't have any freedom from religion, and that the Constitution authorizes state-enforced religion. Yeah. And that the First Amendment doesn't say what we atheists and other rational, even religious people think it says, which is that the government cannot give favor to religion and allow religion to be a state-sponsored institution that forces its way into people's lives. But the folks that are against, they say that they will force religion into our lives. They are going to force it into our lives, and that it'll go to the Supreme Court. And we all know who runs that organization right now. It is, look, the main thing I'll say, and then I'll get off of here. First of all, this show should have tens of thousands of live viewers right now and huge amounts of money. Number two, atheists are not just fighting against stupid ideas and delusions that come from the Bronze Age or from weird stuff like RFK Jr., et cetera. Atheists are fighting to keep America a democracy, a secular democracy, and a place where each of us gets to decide how we will conduct our lives. If we don't defeat those who seek to install religion as a theocracy, we will end up in a very bad situation, and it could happen quickly.
Yes.
Yeah, I think I look at religion and government like cheating in relationships. If they're willing to do it for you, they'll do it to you. So I look at, if you install a theocracy, if you put religion more and more into government, I think a lot of religious folks don't realize that the more that is brought to the fore, the more that more power religion has, they will also end up getting the short end of the stick. They will also end up being told what they can and can't say, what they can and can't wear, or can and can't do. And it's interesting to me that it creeps in, this idea that, well, I kind of agree. I mean, it would be nice if more moms could be in the home to raise their kids. That's good. I agree with that. I like that. And then it becomes a loss of rights, and this materials being used in public schools that are overtly religious. It does creep up pretty hard. And so, I agree with you there.
If I could interject something you just brought up there, is that they are now the anti-abortion, anti-reproductive freedom marketers have very cleverly shifted their marketing pitch to exactly what you just said. There are now politicians and government officials pushing the subsidization of motherhood, the giving special tax benefits beyond what are already given, if not outright bonuses and payments, to encourage people to bear children, and in a way to penalize those who choose not to. Indeed, our tax code already does give advantage to those who make children. It is a very strange situation, and I urge everyone who's listening to share this show, share the entire ACA experience, because if we don't have more rational, secular, or at least rational spiritual people, some of the good religious people like the Muslim guy that's been having a conversation with Matt on his shows, not during those crazy debates where the Muslim guy basically almost threatens to kill Matt. But we need everybody to get together, because if you look at books like The Rise and Fall of the Third Reich, Hitler and his boys were just a little bitty band of violent, weird bullies until they took over the country.
Well, I'm going to end by emphasizing your lovely plug for more people watching this show. I clearly agree with that and appreciate you calling in. I think, it's something I do want to put out there, though. I think it can get really overwhelming and really frustrating, like I kind of mentioned earlier, but remembering that there have always been people like us, people who think differently, people who want to agitate, who don't accept that the world needs to be theocratic, even when it was far more so. Maybe we look to the helpers of secular democracy. We look to people who are advocating for that at least a little bit, just so that we don't feel overwhelmed by,
There's a reason why in our mission statement at the beginning of the show that we read every single time, one of the things we say is we advocate for the separation of religion and state, right? This is a big deal. Now, what he's talking about here, this reinterpretation of the First Amendment, Thomas Jefferson came up with the wall of separation, right? This idea of this sort of separation. So there's been this reinterpretation, this revisionist history by Christian nationalists who are talking about this and saying, well, look, this is just coming from a letter. This isn't actually written in the Constitution. And, they add these different ideas. And it's like, there is sort of this effort to sort of retroactively change history and change its intentions, but even more so to change the liberties that we currently exist with today. And that includes this idea that, Christian nationalism, is not just this buzzword anymore. Like, it is becoming a real thing. So that's why, that's part of the reason why I'm here. I do take this seriously. Whether you choose to donate or not, just be aware, most of us who are doing this stuff, we're volunteers. Sophia and I, we don't get paid to do this, right? We, as a nonprofit, you can see where the money is being used for. That's one of the reasons why I like volunteering. So if you support the ACA and our advocacy for separation of church and state, we do appreciate it. And we are trying to fight the good fight.